Hello, 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 and welcome to Believe. That's BLEAV in Lions, right here on the Believe Network. As always, I'm your host at Javanaugh87, Jack Kavanaugh, and I am joined once again by an NFL All Pro on the field and an All Pro personality off the field, the 2014 interception leader with 24 of those picks across his illustrious career with the Detroit Lions and the Houston Texans. It's Glover Quinn.
What is up, man?
Oh, not too much. Just got back from vacation in Arizona. Absolutely beautiful down there. Grand
Awesome.
Canyon stunning. Sedona is beautiful. Life is
Yeah,
good.
life is good, man. Can't complain. Can't complain. I need a vacation.
You're working too hard, Glover. You're working
I
too
am.
hard.
Man, I feel like I'm working harder or probably more busier than I was even when I played.
Oh, I can imagine, especially right now because it's the voluntary workouts, right? So right now you're working harder than anyone out there.
you know, voluntary workouts are just, I really hate the term
Mm-hmm.
voluntary workouts. I really do, just because, you know, they're not voluntary, even though they are voluntary. Um, but it really only goes for like the young guys as well. I took part in every off-season program I took part in except for my last one in Detroit. I uh I told Matt Patricia I wasn't coming. I had actually had a meeting with Matt Patricia. Him and Bob had flew out to my house in Houston. And I had told him that, you know, I wanted out. I felt like, they were changing, regime. They had just fired the coaches. I'm like, okay, you guys are going in a different direction. I don't know if you guys are trying to rebuild, or like, I don't know what you guys are trying to do. But at that point, I really, of my career, because I knew that was my last year. I knew
Mm-hmm.
going into my 10th season that it was going to take a whole lot for me to play 11. So I really didn't want to start over in year 10. I was like, if this is going to be my last year and I got to get a new coach anyway, let me go somewhere else and finish my career. Let me come back to Houston or do something. Um, but he didn't want to let me out. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not coming to voluntary workouts. So I'll be there for mandatory minicamp. And I do believe he held it against me to this day.
And that's something I was wondering. It is, I know it's voluntary, and it seems as though the players don't mind when players miss it because, for the most part, anyways, JJ Watt said he doesn't care about Kyler Murray skipping. So if JJ Watt approves of it, I'm assuming a lot of players are okay with it. But management, that must be a different story, right?
Well, I mean, I think for JJ, he has to say that just just
Okay.
because just because his voice is so big in the locker room. I don't feel like no team wants their starting quarterback to not be there in during these workouts, because you're working on timing and installing the offense and getting better and better and better, having a better understanding, diving deeper into the offense, communicating with new wide receivers, just getting back into the game. And most quarterbacks, they are the leader on most of these teams, you know what I'm saying? But JJ Watt, he's been in situations like Kyler Murray. He's been the big time guy that wants to get paid or deserves to get paid. So he's not going to sit here and say Kyler Murray should do this or Kyler Murray should be here and this and this and that. He's going to support Kyler publicly. But I'm pretty sure if they're having conversations, he's probably like, "Hey man, I know you need your money and this is and that, but you know, let's see if we can figure out a way to like get some work in with these guys outside of football, voluntary workouts or something, because you just don't want to start out so far behind.
That makes a lot of sense. You're kind of putting the team at a disadvantage, even though you have to use the means at your disposal for the contract leverage. But when it comes to the management and the coaching staff, what kinds of things do they do in, I don't want to say in retaliation because that's a taboo word, but what kind of things happen with players missing workouts like yourself?
Well, I think it depends on the coaches and the understanding and who you are as a player. And most of the time, every coach is going to want their guys to be there. Obviously, they do understand that some things come up, but for the most part, if you come in and take care of your business like you should, it's not as many, backhanded comments. You know what I'm saying? But don't come in and get injured, or don't come in and, you know, you're making mental errors because you don't know all the plays, or, you're having some technique flaws, things that you could have spent a lot of time working on, learning in the off season, and you decided not to come. So then now you come to training camp and you're behind in those areas, depending on who you are, that's an easy ticket out the door. Now
Unless
they
you're
may
Glover
not just
Quinn.
say it, but it's an easy ticket out the door.
And then if you're a player like Glover Quinn, where you're not making those mistakes and you're who you are, the consummate pro, it's a little bit harder to show you the door at that point.
Well, like I said, I do feel like the one off season that I missed, I do feel like uh, possibly hurt me a little bit. And then I do feel like it was held against me um from the staff. I really do feel like that. I don't know if the coordinator, uh but a DB coach, I guess. Um I don't know if they held it against me as much, but I'm pretty sure Matt Patricia held it against me.
And did that result in any changes in playing time or anything like that, or just a
Nah,
personal thing?
nah, it didn't result in, playing time type of thing. It was just kind of like, so they have been working out and doing all their workouts the whole time. So they have been going through OTAs, and so all the players had, they understood how Coach Patricia was practicing. They have been going through it for the whole OTAs, right?
Hmm.
So then I show up for for mandatory minicamp, and I barely get any kind of install, right? They didn't, the whole time I was off in the off season, I didn't get a playbook. Um,
Really?
yeah, I showed up on that Sunday. I got a very partial install that Sunday night. Then we're right there in meetings Monday, and we're out there on the field for practice. And being a veteran, being a respected guy on the team, you know, maybe that's a situation where you're like, hey, I know he hasn't been out here. I know this and I know that. So we're going to ease him into mini camp. We're not going to just throw him in the fire, but he's going to be excited to be back. His teammates are excited, yada, yada, yada. I literally took every rep with the ones, every rep. And I'm asking like plays, like we'll get a play in the huddle, and I'm coming out talking to corner like, all right, what I got on this right here, right? Because I hadn't had the install, right?
Hmm.
And like there were players coming to me saying, like, bro, I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know how you're taking all these plays because we've been doing this for 3 weeks and I still can't do it. You know what I'm saying? But then after practice, we doing conditioning. And I just felt like, and maybe it was just because I knew I didn't come to the off-season workouts and I knew the relationship and the conversations that I had with Coach Patricia. I just kind of felt like he was trying me. Like I felt like he wanted me to like tap out or like say something or rebel or whatever. I felt like that's what he wanted, and I definitely wasn't going to show that. So I took every rep in practice, did all the conditioning after practice, just like it was nothing. But like I said, I felt like a lot of that came from him probably trying to prove a point to me because I didn't come to the offseason program.
And it feels like you're not the only former player under Patricia with stories like that. I know Darius Slay has had his fair share, Quandre Diggs as well. Is that something that's Patricia specific, or did you have that across other coaching staffs as well?
Well, like I said, for me, I don't really know because I never missed the offseason program.
Hmm.
So Coach Caldwell was very understanding. There were times where, you know, I may have left a meeting a little early because I was trying to catch a flight so I can go back home because I was traveling back and forth between Houston and Detroit during the off seasons. But for the most part, I didn't have any issues with any of the coaches when it came to missing off season workouts. And for the most part, most of our guys when I played were there. Stafford never had a contract, dispute where he was missing training camp. Calvin Johnson never had one. When I was in Houston, Matt Schaub never had one. Andre Johnson, I think he might have had a tiny one. I think Andre might have had a tiny dispute where he might have missed one day, maybe in OTAs or something like that, but not a big deal um, at all. So, yeah, that was the first time I actually kind of really dealt with like the the I don't want to say mistreatment, but just like the treatment. Because when Coach Caldwell first got there in 2000, I think it was going into the 2014 season. So in 2013, I had tore my ankle with Detroit. My first year in Detroit, I had tore my ankle up in the first game against Chicago in week 4. So I ended up having ankle surgery during the offseason. So when Coach Caldwell and their staff came in, I was at the offseason program, but I didn't go through any of the OTAs. I didn't take any rep at all. No OTAs. I couldn't run with the team. I was kind of doing everything on the side with the trainers. And like I said, no plays during OTAs, no plays during mandatory minicamp. So when we got to training camp, that was the first time them actually getting to see me run around and play. But I still didn't really get much flack from the coaches. I mean, my DB coach used to always come up to me and he'll say, "Are you as good as they say you are?" And I was just like, "I don't know. You'll see." I don't know. You will see. And I guess it worked out. 2014 was a good year.
I guess it did work out pretty well for yourself and for the Detroit Lions as
Right.
well. I guess maybe you are as good as they said you were coming out of Houston and coming out of the the Jim Schwartz staff into the Jim Caldwell staff.
Mhm.
And so with this whole mandatory minicamp conversation, Baker Mayfield is obviously skipping the Browns. That's a
Right.
completely different situation. But should the Lions trade a late round pick for Baker Mayfield with the Browns just kind of needing to get him out the door for the sake of awkwardness?
Well, like I said, I really do feel like with the Lions, they have to make a decision within the organization, within their hearts, if they believe in Jared Goff. If they believe in Jared Goff, then I don't think you bring in Baker Mayfield.
Hmm.
Just because I don't think he has the personality to want to be a backup,
Nope.
right? He's been, big time guy in college, you know, high draft pick. Like he's been a guy that wants to be in the spotlight. That's him. Um, so if he know he's coming to Detroit as a backup, I don't think you bring him in for that role. There'll be plenty of teams that will need him maybe as a starting quarterback. But I really feel like with the Lions, they have to decide what they want to do with Jared Goff. If they believe in Jared Goff, then that eliminates a lot of the quarterback conversations because Jared Goff is our guy. He's young. He's in his prime. He's our guy for right now. So we can draft a young quarterback in late rounds and groom him as a backup. We don't have to use any assets or take anybody high in the draft to get another quarterback when we believe Jared Goff is our guy. So that's a decision that I don't know if they've come out and said. I don't know if they've came out at any point and been like, hey, Jared's our guy. We're sticking with Jared. He's going to be our starting quarterback going forward. Or if they still have some doubt in their mind about if he can be the guy.
It seems as though they're leaving it open-ended, but trending towards believing in him. So I think they have some reservations. However, when you have 2 first-round picks next year as well, that buys you some time. Jared Goff under contract for another year. You really don't have to make this decision anytime soon if you're Detroit. So why not just run it back with run it back with Jared Goff and invest elsewhere on the roster?
Right. And that's what they'll do. Right. That's what they'll do. They know they got first round draft picks coming up next year. At where they're picking at right now, there may not be a quarterback at number 2 that they just absolutely love over Jared Goff. So hey, we're going to run it back with Jared. We're going to use those picks that we have this year to build some pieces around him. He got 1 year left on his deal. So now we can see because we got 2 first rounds next year, right? He's either going to step up and have a huge year and he's going to be our quarterback going forward, or he's going to, not do that. And we're going to easily be off the hook because he's going to be a free agent. We're not going to have any money issues with him. And, we'll have a couple draft picks. So, we can use that as leverage. Do we want to trade and get an established quarterback that maybe we can get? Or do we want to draft a young guy and say, hey, we're going to draft somebody and we're going to build with this guy? But it also depends on, like I say, it's a difference when you're drafting in the top 5 or you're a middle of the road team and you just didn't make the playoffs and you're drafting at, 12 or 13, or you make the playoffs, but you don't make a good run at it. So now you're drafting at like 20. Like that's totally different when you start looking at those positions for where you're going to be drafting at in the first round. Just because you got first round picks don't mean you're going to be drafting number 1 and you got the access to the top player, in the draft. So I think there's a lot that goes into that. And I think if that's what they're going to take, then they're going to have to come out and, like you say, trend towards that and give Jared Goff that confidence that the team has my back and that they believe in me, which most of the time players know, if I'm in the last year of my deal, if you're not giving me an extension, you don't really believe in me. It just is what it is, right? If you believed in me, you wouldn't give me an opportunity to go out and have a killer year because it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if you believe in me, you'll give me an extension, go and lock me up and be done with it. So that's kind of how it is from a player standpoint. But publicly, they're going to probably make it sound like they believe in Jared Goff. He's our guy. We're sticking with Jared. Give him that public, boost or whatever. And he's really in a 1-year deal to see if he can make something happen.
Well, and you talk about those players that if you believe in me, you'll extend me now. Deebo Samuel, I don't know if you've been seeing the news that's come out today, but he's demanded a trade from San Francisco, and it's not about the money. According to Ian Rappaport, it can't be solved by just offering him a bigger contract. This is about the role, the between the tackles carries as a wide receiver. And so if Deebo Samuel is out in San Francisco, should the Lions trade for him to build around Jared Goff and give him even more help going forward?
First of all, I'm going to comment on Deebo. I don't understand. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. It's not about the money. It's about the between the tackles, carries, and stuff as a wide receiver, right? That's your game, though. You didn't really. Well, I ain't gonna say you didn't burst on the scene because you were just super great wide receiver. It was the many things that you could do. Be a wide receiver, put you in the backfield, break tackles, hand the ball off to you, do a lot of different things, create mismatches, right? So then as a player, when you're getting used in all those different ways, you feel like, uh-oh.
Oh, where'd you go, Glover? I can still hear you.
Uh-oh. Where did I go? What happened? Just cut off?
Did your camera come unplugged or? Oh,
Uh-oh.
you were back for a second.
Jeez. Oh, wow. I think I got something for this. Sorry about this. You can edit this out, huh?
Yeah, of course. No worries.
I don't know why that happened. Well, I don't understand why it happened.
Yeah, and at some points it's saying connecting, but
Well, I have it. I had a battery in it, but I got it hooked up to like a power source, so
oh,
it shouldn't even been running the battery. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no kidding. That's weird.
But I don't know.
Connecting to mass storage, it says. Oh, there
Yeah.
we go.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go back and say this again. So we was talking about Deebo Samuel. So when players say it's not about the money, that's tough because I feel like you're looking at all the things that you're doing as a player, right? And the team is going to try to pay you or pigeonhole you as what they want to pay you as, right? So he probably feels like, man, I'm very valuable to this team. I'm a top wide receiver. I'm a good running back for this team. I make a lot of stuff happen. But I don't know if, and I haven't looked at his stats and stuff like that, but looking at the numbers, he may not be a top 5 wide receiver, numbers wise. He may not be a top 5 running back, numbers wise. So then as the team, you offer him money based off of, well, you're the 8th best wide receiver in the league. So this is what we're going to offer you, right? So then as a player, you feel disrespected by that. You feel like everything that you do, putting your body on the line, taking those hits as a wide receiver, playing running back, all those different things, you feel like it's not appreciated, right? The team doesn't value who I am and what I do and what I put myself through to be able to do the things that I do. So then now, like you say, it's not about the money anymore because I already feel like you guys don't respect me. So now, if you just pay me a lot of money, you're just stunting with your money, but you don't really respect me. And some players would rather just be somewhere where the team appreciates me, they respect me, they understand everything that I do, everything that I bring to the table, and I can live with that. Because either way, you're gonna make a lot of money.
Yeah, and
But when it comes to the lines, like I say, you know, when you look at the Lions backfield, I don't know, if those guys stay healthy, I don't know how much they need Deebo in the backfield. I mean, he's kind of like Swift. You know what I'm saying? In a sense, right? So if
Mhm.
Swift can stay healthy, they're kind of the same type of runners, catchers. So then, like I said, is he a top just wide receiver if he's lined up against number one corners week in and week out? Right? Is he running good routes and catching passes, or is he catching screen passes and making guys miss, breaking tackles because he's a strong runner and turning those short passes into long gains, right? Because if you're going to be traded for in Detroit, you are going to be the number one guy. So you're going to get, for the most part, either the number one corner, or you're going to get the double team, or you're going to get whatever they fear or feel they need to do to stop you if you're the number one guy and you're making noise. So I don't know if the Lions should make that move. I don't know.
Especially because not only are you giving up the pick, you're also now forced to pay him a massive contract, and if you don't pay him or get the contract sorted out when you make the trade, now as a team you're held hostage, which we've seen time and time again, where you can't trade multiple first round picks or even a first round pick and then let the player walk after a season. That just
Nah.
doesn't happen. So either way
Mm-mm.
for the Lions, does this fit into their rebuilding plans right now, or is it a luxury that isn't going to make the long-term impact?
I don't think it's gonna be the impact that they will want. And I feel like there's a lot more to building a team than just getting good players.
Mhm.
You gotta have the right personalities, you gotta have the right guys. And I don't know Deebo personally, so please don't hold me to that. And I'm sorry if I offend you, but just coming off of the season that he had, being in the California market, so to say, San Francisco, big time. I don't know if he wants to come to if he would want to come and play in a market like Detroit. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
don't know if he would want to be off of the big stage. Some guys like the big stage, they like the attention, they like all those things. And so I don't know if Deebo would be one of those guys that don't like that will want to say, "Hey, I'm gonna go to Detroit and I'm gonna help hopefully turn this thing around." But you may not, I don't know. So I think you got to make sure you're getting the right personality, the right kind of guys, the right guys to fit your system, fit your program, fit in with the community, understand the community, and so if Debo's that guy and they feel like he can do that and bring that to the team and to the city, and he's worth, what they're gonna have to give up to get him, then maybe you make that move. But me, I don't think that's the move for the Lions.
I tend to agree with that right now. I don't think that really it fits into the big picture. It adds too many question marks. And like you said, there's kind of two ways. And I picture Buffalo in the same scenario a couple years ago when they tried to trade for Antonio Brown and he vetoed it. He said, nope, not coming to Buffalo. Whereas Stephon Diggs, he was happy to go to Buffalo just to feel appreciated by the team that wanted him. And now he re signed at a discount, taking about $6 million a year less than Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill because Buffalo's starting to feel like home. So I don't know Deebo Samuel either, and I won't pretend to know him, but it's just a tale of personality types at the wide receiver position, which I'm sure you've had a lot of experience lining up against so many.
Oh yeah, and I mean, Stephon's a talented guy, and his personality fits what Buffalo's team, is. He likes that style. He tries to play tough, even though he's a smaller guy. He tries to play tough. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. Like, got much respect for Stephon and his game. And I can see Stephon's situation being a lot like mine. Stephon was a 5th round draft pick. I was a 4th round draft pick. Stefan's playing really well in Minnesota, but they also had other guys that were playing really well, right? I felt like I was playing well in Houston, but they had other guys. So in order for me to whatever, like I had to be the one that had to leave. Stefan had to be the one to leave. And in those situations when you feel like you're the one that has to leave, you love to go somewhere where you are wanted. So when the Buffalo Bills step up and show, hey, Stephon Diggs, we appreciate you. We value you. We want you here. And then he comes in and he's able to be himself. He's able to be a leader. He's able to have his personality, do all the things that he does, and then put up numbers. Play with a big quarterback like Josh Allen. Play with a good defense. Be in the playoffs, pushing, trying to get Buffalo back to that Super Bowl. You fall in love with that, right? It was the same way, like I said, for me, you come to Detroit and they give you an opportunity to be the guy. And when you come through and deliver, and the team starts to get built around you and your personality, and you can feel your mold on a group, on a defense, on a team, then that's where you want to be. You want to be somewhere where you appreciate it and where you want it. And so, for Deebo, he may not feel that way. And then he may, I don't know. He may, I don't know. But you got to be real careful with those situations because, you can get these guys a lot of money and they can come in and really just don't want to be there. You know what I'm saying? Really just don't want to be there. And they do enough just to, collect their checks for a couple years. And then all of a sudden you're shipping them out the door, but you done paid them $55 million. So it's tough.
It is. It very much is. And it feels as though for a lot of players that I've talked to, respect is everything. And I was talking to Ray Crockett, former Detroit Lion, a couple months ago, and he said what sold him on Denver was Pat Bolin sending the private jet for him to, I think he was living in Detroit still at the time, but regardless, sent the private jet for him. And the Colts just did the same thing with Stephon Gilmore to get him to sign. Robert, or the Irsay's private jet flew in. So is that the secret to feeling wanted, is the private jets, or what did the Lions do to get you there?
Well, I mean, I will say this right here. The year that I came out, the Lions did not send the private jet for
Ah.
me. I will say that. But that has been what they did because I remember my free agency year, I think the top signing safety was Deshaun Golson,
Mm-hmm.
and Tampa Bay sent the PJ to get Deshaun Golson, and he ended up signing in Tampa. But I think just from a player standpoint, when they send the private jet, the owner's private jet, that automatically tells you you're the guy that we want. We're laying out the whistles for you from the very beginning. When like I said, when I was a free agent, that was the first year I think that they kind of introduced the tampering window, right?
Okay.
So the tampering window opens up. Detroit's the first team that give me a call. Call my agent like 12:05. Right. I think the window opens at 12. They call it like 12:05. So they had, kind of been talking. And like I said, and I tell anybody, Detroit was not the first team on my radar. I'm saying like, I didn't want to come to Detroit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, bro, you got, but they were the first team that called me. So they had a special place in my heart because I felt like they're a team that wanted me. I would probably say the most, right? They called first. Like you're gonna be the first call that we get, right? Um, and so when it got time to come out there on a visit, once I decided, okay, I'll go out there on a visit because you had like the two or 3 days. And once I decided to go out on a visit, they couldn't actually book my flight to Detroit before the league year started, right?
Oh.
So they had told me, hey, there's a 5 o'clock flight out of Houston. We're going to get you on that flight so you can have your bags packed be ready, because once the league year opens, which would be 3 o'clock my time in Houston, once the league year starts, we're gonna buy your flight, we'll email it to you. So I was already packed. I left my house, headed to the airport before the email even came in, because the flight was leaving at like 5:15. So I knew, I'm like, all right, I got to be, I got a good 45, 50-minute drive to get there. So I'm going to take off before 3 o'clock. I need to be at the airport almost at 3 o'clock. So I had took off, and on my way over there, I get the call, and the itinerary came in, and I check in, and I get on the plane, and they flew me out first class, and that was it. So no, they didn't send the PJ out for me, but I think when players get the PJ, that's a sign that they really going all in to try to get you.
And Ray Crockett put it as, you feel as though you're the missing piece when they send that private jet. And that's what Stephon Gilmore had to say about his signing with the Colts, is he can be that missing piece on that Colts defense going forward. Do you still think he is that lockdown corner that he was for so many years in New England?
I think he can be. I think the older you get, you learn how to play better. You learn how to play smarter. You understand your body. You understand the things that you can do. You understand the system, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Is does his game fit with the system that they want to run? And for them to send the PJ, for him to take the visit and actually sign, they had to have made him feel like the system that you guys are going to be running is going to fit me, and I'm going to be able to help you guys because I'm that guy. And that's a challenge that Stephon took at this point in his career. Um, and I hope it works out for him. I think he's a good guy. I was doing my podcasting last year, 2 years ago, maybe, when I was doing my DB Room podcast, and Stephon came on, did a live show with me. So yeah, I like Stephon. I like his game. So hopefully he can come out in Indy and make a difference on the defense. They got a good defense, good secondary. I know my DB coach used to be there. He's not there anymore. Alan Williams, he took the coordinator job in Chicago, I think. So I don't know exactly what they're going to do in Indy, but I don't think you can go wrong adding Stephon Gilmore.
I'm glad to hear that, because I'm a big Stephon Gilmore fan as well, but obviously I don't know the DB tape like you do. So hearing that he still has it and still has the chance to be great with Indy, very exciting. And one of the things with Indianapolis, they've got Gus Bradley, the former Seahawks defensive coordinator. So he's known for a lot of that cover three single high safety, which is a little bit different than what Gilmore did in New England, where he was just locked onto the wide receiver one. Do you read too much into that change, or is it so much overlap in concepts, anyways, that it isn't as big a deal as people make it out to be?
Yeah, I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be, because nowadays a lot of the teams, the way they play cover three, it's almost like they're playing man to man.
Mm-hmm.
It's every now and then you get some systems where they play a true cover three, like old school thirds, but the offenses are so good nowadays that they've had to modify the defenses. So a lot of times you get these guys, they're playing cover three, but it's almost like you're playing man to man. And I think Steph is smart enough to understand um, how to play a cover three system, how to be a man to man guy, how to make it all look the same, how to mix up your looks to where it looks different. I think Steph is definitely smart enough and vet savvy enough to be able to take that on. So I don't think that'd be that big of a deal. And you say Gus Bradley from Seattle, was he out there with
He's with the
when
Raiders last year.
so when was he in Seattle? When
Back in
they
their Super Bowl days, and then he went to Jacksonville and that whole saga.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Nah. I think Steph would be fine.
Yeah, yeah. When you're that elite of an athlete and that elite of a corner, you're going to be fine no matter the system, is what
Yeah.
I've seemed to learn throughout my NFL fandom.
Not necessarily though. There's been some guys that have played in very friendly systems that got put in other systems that was not as friendly, and they did not enjoy the same success.
This is true.
So,
Yeah, I can think of some notable examples here.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
I should have rephrased, when you're the Stephon Gilmores, the Richard Shermans of the world, is kind of where I was headed. The Darrell Revis is.
Mhm.
Uh,
And but you got to think, like even Darrell Reeves was locked down in the Jets, right? Like
mhm.
locked down. He's a man-to-man type of guy. He goes to Tampa, and they're in that cover two kind of system. It, it- I'm not saying, I mean, he wasn't there the longevity or the terms of his contract. He was out of there before. I know he was doing like those 1 year like deals. I think he had like a 6 year deal, but they was really all just 1 year, like
Yeah,
year to year type of deals, right? Um, but that system, in my opinion, it took out two guys because, like I said, Deshaun Golson was the safety that signed in Tampa my free agency year. And if you remember, Deshaun Golson was in San Francisco and they ran a quarter system. They ran a single high robber safety type of system. And Deshaun played that role really well. He could drop in, he could tackle, he could play quarters. He played that role really, really well, and he got rewarded for it contract wise. But when he went to Tampa and they tried to make him a cover two safety, he didn't have the same impact. Therefore, I think he only played 2 years of his 5 year deal in Tampa. And then all of a sudden he gets traded to Washington or gets picked up by Washington. And then that doesn't work out. Now he was in Atlanta. And then all of a sudden, guy that signs 5 year, $40 million deal is not even playing anymore.
and so is that something that can be avoided from a coaching and front office decision, or is that something that's hard to know until you have the guy in the building on the field?
I think these guys are way too smart. I just feel like sometimes they get caught up in the name as opposed to how does this person fit into my system, right? If you're Tampa and you feel like you need a safety to help shore up your defense, then you probably want to go after the top safety that's considered a free agent, right?
Mhm.
Well, the top safety that's considered a free agent, well, that is a free agent, is Deshaun Golson. Well, he's had his success in San Francisco as a quarters safety, a single high middle third safety, a drop in robber type safety. That's where he has success. Why would you sign him to a cover two team where he's not doing the things that you saw him do to be successful? So now it's just, to me, that was just, we need a safety. He's a top guy. Let's go and get him. He should be able to play in a cover two system. The system is easy. It's really cover two. It changes you up. When you're a safety and you play in cover two, you're going backwards, right? Because you're the deepest guy. So you're playing in a lot of space. When you're a safety and you playing in cover four, or you playing in a drop down robber situation, now you're more aggressive. You're coming forward because you got people to protect you over the top. So now I can be aggressive, come downhill, hit guys, make tackles, drive on balls to make, pass breakups. I can do all those things because there's protection for me. When you put me in cover two, now I'm playing back on my heels. Next thing you know, I'm put in tough tackling situations because I'm in so much space. And that's not for everybody. That's why you have different body types and different guys that can do different things. And so I don't know why teams do that. I really don't. I feel like they're way too smart. They got way too much scouting to be able to look at a guy and say, yeah, he's been good, but he's a man-to-man corner. And I mean, you look at Nnamdi Asomugha back in the days,
Mhm.
right? He's a lockdown, bump and run, man-to-man corner in Oakland. Philly brings him in and wants him to play all these different zones, and like that's not his game. So then he go to Philly, and he's not the same guy.
The dream team, as Vince Young dubbed it.
Right. Awful. Like the Lakers. Awful.
Oh no. It really is frustrating when you see players misused and misunderstood, and just from a fan perspective, sometimes you can even see it coming. It's why is uh, one of the best scenarios that I remember is, why is Anthony Barr, the middle linebacker, lined up on Robert Woods ever? Why? And then he's streaking down 70 yards for the touchdown. It's just so much stubbornness. It feels as though coaches and front office personnel make in who they bring in and what they ask them to do after the fact.
No question. No questions. Egos, stubbornness, is all types of things. And that's why guys be wanting to get paid, because they understand the job that you're having me do. Right? Like, yeah, I might be the middle linebacker, but you're playing me matching up on these guys like I'm a cover guy. Like, don't just pay me a bottom salary as a middle linebacker, because I mean way more to this team than that. Now, to somebody else's team, I may not, but to this team, I mean more than $4 million. I mean 8 to this team in this defensive system. And coaches don't see it that way.
Especially when you have the draft coming up and all the new shiny toys. Well, we can just replace you with someone younger and cheaper and more athletic. And oftentimes that doesn't work out the way you expect it to. Or sometimes it does, and you get a fourth round all pro in Glover Quinn. So, what was the pre draft process like for you? Did you know you were going to Houston? And did the Lions show any interest at that point before they signed you 4 years later?
And nothing from the Lions at
Ooh.
all. Nothing. The whole entire time. My pre-draft, you know, I could take it all the way back, right? So I get a late invite to come to the East West Shrine game, right? But the Shrine game was in Houston that year. I played corner in college, but they had me labeled as a tweener coming out. So then a couple guys went down at the East West game as safeties. They called me, asked me if I want to play, but as a safety, not as a corner. So, well, I don't want to turn down the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
They got me labeled as a tweener. Bump it. I'm going to go show them that I can play some safety too. Right. So I go to the East West game, play well. Didn't get an invite to the Senior Bowl. Got invited to the Combine. Go to the Combine. I bench good, jump good, ran good, tested good. I mean, I had a pretty good Combine. I probably made myself a lot of money at the Combine. And so after the Combine, you come back, now you got your pro day, right? So I go to my pro days. A lot of teams were there. And I thought I had a good pro day. I thought I had good meetings, all those different things, you know. And like I said, some teams were looking at me as a corner, some teams were looking at me as a safety, some teams were looking at me as like cover 2 corner type guy. So I had a lot of talks with, you know, Chicago and Tampa, and then you had the teams, you know, Jacksonville that was running a 4-3 system, but they wanted me to be like that linebacker. There's a lot of different things, different ways that they were talking about using me with different teams. So then after that, now you get into private workouts. I had one private workout with New England. They came out to New Mexico, worked me and the other corner out. Had that. Then after workouts, you get into pre-draft visits. I had one visit. I visited Atlanta, the Falcons. Um, and they had told us when we were in Atlanta that if you're here, you're on our draft board. Like you're one of the guys that we're thinking about drafting. And I was there, and it's funny because a lot of the guys that were on the visit with me got drafted by the Falcons. Um,
Ooh.
I just wasn't one of them. But maybe I got picked before they,
That's what I'm thinking. You got
they maybe would have got me in the 5th round and
Texans
somebody took me
sniped
in the
you
4th.
from the
Yeah.
Falcons. Ooh.
So I didn't hear much from the Texans outside of, you go to the combine, you have the regular meetings that every team is just having, just kind of informational meeting, making sure they got your name right, your phone numbers and emails and all that stuff. Basically what they call informal interviews at the combine. You have formal interviews where you're in the room with all the coaches, the staff, the guys, and they're interviewing you. And then you have the informal ones where you just kind of all in a big room. Each team got like a table, and they just kind of just pulling all the guys to make sure that they talking to everybody, getting everybody information. And so I didn't have any like major meetings with the Texans. Even leading up to the draft, I didn't really hear much from them. If I did, so when I got there, Perry Carter was the assistant DB coach, and Perry Carter is from the same county that I'm from in Mississippi. So Perry would call me every now and then, see how I was doing, and nothing crazy, but he would call me every now and then. And so I had no idea that I was going to Houston, like none at all. And then go through the drives. The first day go by because back then it was just 2 days. First day go by, they did the first round, second round, and didn't get a call. And then so you go to the second day, you got 3 through 7. Third round go, we get to the end of the third after the Texans picked in the third round. They call me, and it was Perry. He's talking to me, asking me all these questions, all this stuff. And then he was like, well, we thinking about taking you with our 4th round pick. I'm like, well, bet. But they had just picked in the 3rd round. So I'm like, I gotta wait another basically whole round for you guys to pick again.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets closer to their pick, and I look up and I'm like, oh man, they got 2 picks in the 4th round. They had the 112th pick and they had the 122nd pick. So I'm just like, man, please take me with 112 if y'all gonna take me. And I'm sitting there. Now they're on the clock. Hadn't heard anything else from them. And I'm just kind of sitting there. And then I think it was like 2 minutes and 30-something seconds left on the clock. My phone started going off. And I looked down at it. It was an 832 number. And I answered it. And it was the Texans. They got me. That was it. I didn't have anything crazy. I didn't talk to any other teams, more so out of just the norm of them calling in, checking, making sure you're still healthy and make sure they got the right number. You know what I'm saying? Just the basic stuff. So I kind of had a pretty smooth, easy pre-draft process. But I also was a player that they probably didn't have a lot of questions about either. I was kind of who I was. You can see it on film. The big question with me was, can I run? And a lot of the teams thought, can he run? So when I went to the combine and I ran a good time, then it was like, okay, well, he can run. We know he's smart. He's physical. He's a guy that we can trust. And I don't think we have to continue to meet with this guy. So I didn't really have a lot.
So you hear the stories about Pete Carroll doing these crazy things where he's doing staring contests for the interviews. He's taking his shirt off versus DK Metcalf to flex. Did you have anything like that, or was it just strictly business? We know this guy is serious. We're not going to waste his time with the
Yeah,
antics.
I didn't have anything crazy at at my meetings. The craziest thing I could say I did have though, and I don't know, I kind of carried it with me in my career too. Um, so I had a former meeting with Chicago Bears, right? And at the time, Lovie Smith was the head coach. right? So the formal interviews, I think they're like 15 minutes or 30 minutes at the combine, something like that. I can't remember. So I'm in my meeting with Chicago Bears, and Lovie Smith literally didn't say a word to me. Like literally just sat there and looked at me like literally did not say a word. And if the interviews were supposed to be 15 minutes, my interview with Chicago ended in like 7 minutes. Done. So I walk out of there, I'm just like, that was weird. Like, did I do good or something? That's why it ended so fast, or were they just like not interested? Because Lovey didn't say a single word to me, and so I kind of held that grudge throughout my whole career with Lovey. Just like I don't know what it was. You didn't say nothing to me, Lovey, and now he's the head coach for the Houston Texans. So.
Yeah, how do you feel about that now? Is that a little bit awkwardness in your heart or still holding that?
Uh, I still holding it a little bit. I can't lie. I want to know. I mean, maybe that was his tactic. Everybody has these different tactics that they do in these meetings. My career is long and over right now, so I mean, I wouldn't mind asking him about it. Though, just like, what were you trying to do? Like, what were y'all thoughts? Did y'all just like were y'all like not impressed at all? That's why my meeting ended so fast. That's why you didn't say anything to me, or did I just knock it out the park and you just, got your good poker face and y'all didn't have anything else and I had passed the test with flying colors and y'all were done? I don't know. I would like to know that though.
I'd like to know that too. We've got to talk to Lovey Smith at some point and maybe do a Believe in Lines Texans crossover and get him to answer what was going on with that poker
What
face.
was going on, Levy? It's
What
all
the
good though.
heck was that, Lovey?
It's all good.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And so, with the draft coming up next week, interesting to note that only two quarterbacks got invited, I don't know if they were invited. Only two quarterbacks are attending the draft. Does that mean anything that Malik Willis and Matt Corral are going to the draft and Kenny Pickett is staying at home? Could the two attending have some assurances that they're going to get the jersey walk on stage, the hug with Roger Goodell?
You know, that's always a tough thing, man. You just never know how the draft's gonna play out. I'm sure if you're a top, you know, 1, 2 quarterback, I mean, you're probably expecting to go at some point in the first round. And you may want the experience of the draft, being there, going through all the interviews and the environment, the experience. Like you may want to have that. Some guys don't. Some guys would rather stay at home, be in the comfort of their own home around people that they grew up with, that's in their support system, and they want to share that moment with everybody. Um, so some of them, I think I remember, when Joe Thomas got drafted, he was like number 3 pick, and he was on a boat fishing. You know what I'm saying? He was out in the middle of the water fishing when he got drafted. You know what I'm saying? So some people are just different. But I don't know how strong this quarterback class is, but for only 2 quarterbacks to be going to the draft, at least for the first day, uh, it's not shaping up to be like. I mean, you would think there's at least 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys that could be first rounders as quarterbacks, but I mean, they only got 2. That's tough.
It is, and that's what I'm wondering. What's going to happen? Who's going to be making that walk across the stage to put on that Honolulu blue jersey? Are we going to get 2 walks across the stage within the first round and the the top of the first and the second? There's a lot to happen here that it's a great time to be a Detroit Lions fan, and I can't wait to figure out where this team is going heading forward.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like I said, I can't even sit here and say that I've been keeping up solely with everything that's going on with the draft and the prospects and all those things. But the Lions let Trey Flowers out the door, right?
Yep.
If they believe in Jared Goff, I could see them drafting Aiden Hutchinson at number 2.
That
Michigan guy, be huge for the city. Just a rush in guy. He seems like, and I don't know him, but he seems like a Dan Campbell like type of energy. Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, JJ Watt, TJ Watt type of guy that plays hard, has good attitude. If they like what they got with Jared Goff, I wouldn't be surprised if they take him number 2. They just signed Tracy Walker, so I don't see them taking a safety from Notre Dame at number 2. I think they'll go Aiden Hutchinson, number 2.
that that seems to be the consensus and the
Yeah.
hope amongst Lions fan. Keep the hometown kid in Michigan, bring him to Detroit, and build that franchise around Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see it. We'll be watching next week. We know that'll be happening on the Thursday, round 1, because Aiden Hutchinson's obviously going in the top 2 picks if he doesn't go to Jacksonville. But until then, Glover, you have any pluggables to plug? Anything to cover that you've been working on?
Not yet. Not yet. I got a lot of stuff in the works. A lot of stuff coming through the pipeline. But I like to keep it quiet until it's time. I like to keep it quiet until it's time. But I will say, I appreciate the D. I got my old English D hat on. This D actually stands for the Dirtbags. It's our baseball team. But the fact that I played for Detroit and it looks like, the D, like I wear it all the time because it's cool. So shout out to the Dirtbags this weekend and shout out to City of Detroit.
Shout out to the Dirtbags. You could have fooled me. I thought it was a Tigers hat. Shout out to the Tigers as well. Shout out to Detroit. And until then, we will see you next time.